Hey guys, so this is super weird for me and totally out of my element, but a lot of people ask me how I curl my hair, and I never have a good explanation because I feel like it's just pretty normal, but you've all asked. So this is the before, and now I'm going to show you how I curl my hair. This is the, as you can see, Hot Tools professional curling iron. I just recently got this shortly after Christmas. It's the 1.25" version, which is apparently an important thing to tell people in a hair tutorial. So that is that. And of course, who doesn't love a good scrunchie for the assist? Okay, as usual in any sort of hair tutorial, first things first, section it off. If you have hair anywhere close to as thick as mine, this is hugely important. Then I'm weird and I like to put in a little bit of this light hold hairspray before I actually start curling. My hair doesn't hold a curl super well, which is hard for a lot of people to believe because it's almost always curled, but partly because I put a little bit of this light hold hairspray in before I curl it, which is probably super bad for your hair and people are going to yell at me, but whatever. Y'all wanted to know, so here you go. All right, so as in any hair tutorial, curl it away from your face. I like to leave the ends out a little bit, and you'll see throughout this, vary how much I leave out at the end. But then the important part is I will smooth over that end right at the last second. That gives the end a little bit of smoothness, a little bit of bend without being obnoxiously curly. And then you just sort of repeat that process. Curl it away from your face, mostly focus on the middle part of the hair, but you'll see one weird little thing that I do later on to give a little bit of lift at the roots, and I think that's a big part of how the curl seems a little more bouncy than maybe it really is. So slide it over the ends, smooth it out a little bit, and move on to the next section. Depending on how thick your hair is and how easily it curls, that will probably determine how big your sections can be, but also I'm not a professional hairstylist. All I know is that I like to vary the size of those sections so that the curls aren't all totally uniform. There you go. Maybe that's part of the magic. I don't really know. I'm just telling you what I do. Like I said, I don't think it's all that special, but the people wanted to know. Smooth over the ends. If you need to, give it an extra little twist like I did there, just to kind of set that curl and make sure that it cools curled, because the cooling process is actually what maintains the curl. This section I left a little bit more hair out at the end, just again to kind of vary what the curls look like so it doesn't just become the same thing over and over again. Also, one thing you'll notice is the angle at which you slide that last section out will change sort of the direction of the curl, so that's just another way you can mix it up, vary things a bit. Okay, so nobody wants to sit here and watch me for however long this is going to take. You see there's a timer in the bottom corner there. That's because I wanted to give you a realistic idea of how long it takes me to do whatever this is. So I'm going to speed this part up, basically do that same thing over and over again, and I'll slow it down when there's something important to tell you. Deal? All right. Okay, I'm back. So before I move on to the next section, I'm going to go back to the cooled side of my head, and you can see sort of flattened out. There's some weird indents from holding the curling iron vertically to create sort of the ringlet style curls. So here's that little trick I was talking about. Here's how I fix that. I'll take a very thin section right across that sort of hairline you created by the section, and then hold the curling iron horizontally, basically parallel to that hairline, and get one curl, maybe 1.5 curls right at the root, just to really lift at the root and also smooth out any of those weird dents or bumps from just the direction that you're holding the curling iron to create the rest of the curl. So slide it in parallel or horizontal, whichever word you prefer, to that hairline. Just do one curl, maybe 1.5, and just leave it there for a couple of seconds, and it'll give you that lift, a little bit of bounce. It'll also kind of loosen up some of those curls, again, so that they don't look totally uniform and totally like weird Pollyanna ringlet curls or whatever it might be. So just the thinnest section right at that hairline, right at the top of the section that you just finished curling, and just give it a little bit of a twist right at the root, and that'll give you that little bonus lift for the hair right at your scalp. That maybe is the biggest trick I can offer you. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's go back to super speed so that you can see that I really do just do this exact process over and over and over again, changing the size of the section, changing the angle that I slide that last little curl out of, and then we'll meet back here in a bit. Okay? All right. Okay, I'm gonna slow this part down one more time just so that you get a clearer picture of that little root lift that I was talking about. It's a little hard to see, but I think you really can see the difference when I finish with a section, just how much bounce there is and how much volume there is at the top of the hair, at the root of the hair, and that kind of frees up the curl and the rest of the hair to be a little looser, a little more wavy, but you don't lose any of that volume, any of that bounce from maybe a bigger curl. So that part seemed a little bit significant to slow down and look at again. The other thing is, right at the top section of your hair, you will want to pay a little more attention to how those curls lay, because obviously it's the top section. If you're like me, you have a little bit of trouble finding exactly what the right part is. That is what is happening here, which is super uninteresting. So I'll keep this a little slower, but speed it up for the most part. It's the same thing. Once again, I will show you what I do sort of right at the end with kind of the front pieces of the hair, and I will slow it all the way down for that. So let's pick this back up again. Okay, so by this point, if any of you are still watching, here's some small talk, some chit chat, just to keep it interesting-ish as you watch me do exactly the same thing for the 7,000th time in the last 24 minutes of real time. So first things first, the squeak that you hear in the background, hey, yeah, that's my dog, Louie. He just decided to pop in, mostly because he's wondering why I'm curling my hair while sitting on the living room floor. It's not typically where I do my hairstyling, but you know, if you're gonna film a hair tutorial, you gotta go where the lighting is, and right now, well, there's daylight coming in the window, so that was my best option. So I'm sitting on the floor in the living room whilst curling my hair for this video. I was also watching the last episode of the Crisis of Infinite Earths crossover with all the DC Comics shows. And look, if you love those shows, more power to you, but real talk, those crossover shows are just not good. Like, the dialogue is really bad. The storyline gets a little lost in the over-the-top drama. Anyway, not the best show I've ever seen in my life. But this part right here, this is where it gets a little bit more important, because I will change one or two things as I get to the last few pieces right around my face. So I'll pay a little more attention to exactly the direction of the curl, including how I pull that last section through right at the end. So I left a good chunk out because I don't want this section to be too curled, but I will pay a little closer attention to smoothing out the ends right around my face. And then this last piece, sort of the long wispy bangs, I'm going to take a little bit more care to pull it down towards my face instead of wrapping it more vertically, and just kind of slide the curling iron through it, not really hold it for a long curl, and that'll just give it that little bit of wave, a little bit of wisp, instead of kind of the ringlet curl that we've done for the rest of it. I'm going to go back over the section, the equivalent section on the other side, and just do that same little root lifting trick. We'll go around the crown of my head with that one more time. This also kind of just blends in any of those sections that you might have seen kind of broken apart when you choose a section to curl. Yep, there's that squeaky toy again. Louie is back at it. He's got this stuffed squirrel that he always likes to play with right when I'm trying to record audio. Classic. So anyway, right around the crown one more time, doing this little root lifting trick. Just give that one or two little twists, and then it'll give you the lift that you're looking for. Also smooth out some of those sections. It can also help smooth out any weird little flyaways. If you have any little baby hairs like I do, flyaways that tend to get in the way, something like this can kind of concentrate that curl, give a little bit of bend to those flyaways, and make them slightly less noticeable. So I do like to, last thing, go all the way around one more time. Just make sure that right at the root, they're nice and lifted, and gives that appearance of a little more body, a little more volume, and just kind of the bounce that you're looking for. And then, in theory, I would let this cool a little bit more before I did anything else with it. But for the sake of this tutorial, it's already way too long. You don't need to see any more than you've already seen. So I'm gonna hit it with some hairspray. Again, this is a loose hold hairspray because I do want the curl to fall a little bit and look a little more natural throughout the day. So I will hit it with that hairspray, then run my fingers through it, starting at the bottom. If that top layer is still a little warm, don't do what I'm about to do in this video. Give it some time, let it set, make sure that all the hair is totally cool before you run your fingers through it for that last little break up sesh, and that'll give you the curl, and you can break it apart without losing too much of it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that. Hopefully it was helpful. Okay, bye.